Yo, welcome, Mike Crawford, Young Jerks, special episode. A little bit sad tonight, too. I think all the shootings and 21 people, it's really difficult to talk to. I don't even want to get into that tonight, unfortunately, because, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, we have a great show, but it is difficult. It's a difficult time, and I just wanted definitely to acknowledge uh, what people are thinking about all across the nation and the world. Why do we keep having these children murdered, 10 years old? Tonight, though, we're going to be focusing on cannabis, going back to the cannabis issue. Mass dispensary chain Buds Goods and Provisions apparently illegally withheld tips from their employees. The company recently agreed to a settlement of $33,000 plus that will be distributed among 68 employees. We have a couple guests here who are some of the employees that had their tips withheld from Buds Goods and Provisions. We also have a guest from New England Treatment Access. I believe these are all former employees. We're going to find out right now, but they had their tips withheld. They front end workers, bud tenders, as they call them in the industry. They were collecting tips, and the employees weren't getting their due. They weren't getting what the money was going to free lunches and ridiculous stuff. And $33,000 Buds Goods and Provisions has agreed to pay out. Obviously, there's an issue. Curaleaf is another company that is getting sued, a multi-state cannabis operator that is in Massachusetts. They're also being sued in federal court for the same issue, allegations that it stole hundreds of thousands of dollars in tips from their employees. Let's bring up the guest. I want to hear exactly what, especially for the this Buds Goods and Provisions. We have three different guests here. Number one, Jimbo. I'll start with a dude. People know him, Jimbo. He's going to be speaking on New England Treatment Access. He's also a tour guide. You can check him out in Big Boston recently. He does amazing things too. He's got a course going for veterans, I've noticed. He does a lot of good things in the industry. Welcome to the show, Jimbo.
Glad to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me, bud.
And your full name is Jimbo Williamson?
That's right.
Perfect. And we also have some other guests who are from Buds Goods and Provisions. We have, first of all, we'll start with the solo, Abby, right?
Yes, yeah.
So tell us your name and tell us about yourself.
So my name's Abby. I was one of the lead sales associates at Buds Goods. I worked there up until like the middle of March.
And we also have Victoria and Lindsay. I believe you also worked at Buds Goods and Provisions. Is that correct?
We did.
And what town was this located in when you were working at Buds?
Abington. The three of us actually all work together.
Okay. And so it's Victoria and Lindsay.
I'm Victoria.
Yes, you're Victoria?
Mm-hmm.
And so recently you went to the Attorney General about this tips withholding. And I'm sure this has been an issue. I think, Victoria, you were kind of one of the ringleaders on this, right?
I actually did it by myself first, and then a couple other people kind of followed suit. I was the first person to file it because I wasn't okay with it. That's really what it came down to. I've been in this industry for about 4 years now as a cultivator, and this was like a second job to me. And then that just kind of set me off. And then I contacted my resources, and they agreed with me.
And so you contacted Human Resources at Buds Goods and Provisions, and they agreed?
No, I contacted my resources, like the Attorney General, the Fair Labor Division. I contacted them and just was seeing like, hey, is this supposed to happen? And then they called me back about a week later, and they're like, no, we're going to take this a little bit seriously. Can you give us a little bit more information? I sent in what I had. I let them know what I knew. And then a couple months later, they finally put it into proposal. I want to say October, when they like sent me back that formal complaint. And then it went from there.
So let's talk about why you decided to file a complaint. Like, they were collecting tips, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so they were collecting tips, and we kind of didn't know what to do with them. Like, as a whole group, it was more so like, what do we do with this? We weren't asking for them. We didn't have any receptacles to put them in. For the first like week or so, we were putting them in the drawer. like the register, we didn't know what to do with them. And then we had bags, and then the bags weren't getting counted correctly. So then they came out with this collection box idea. And when they came out with the collection box is when we just started putting all the tips in there. Like everybody, there's going to be 5 of us working on a floor. And, you know, a lot of the times people would spend hundreds of dollars and be like, oh, I have $22 left over, take it. I have $5 left over, take it. And that's just, nobody expected it. Nobody asked for it, but people do that. And I understand because I tip my bartenders too at my places that I go. No matter if, you know, it's a competition or not, that's just what you do. It's like a coffee, you know, anybody who's selling anything to you like that. So they started taking those tips as an allotment and logging them on an Excel sheet and then in a binder book and then on just in general, just like a bunch of different places. Our general manager did Hennessy. And after that, we didn't really see what we were making weekly. There was no amounts that we were told. There was no real breakdown of where that money was going, what they were doing with it, and how it came back to us. So then we started asking. So then they came up with the $5 joints. We would get 3 $5 joints a month.
No, they were doing that in Worcester.
Oh,
They dropped that immediately. So in Worcester, they were giving us $5 1 gram pre-rolls per month. So you could get three $5 pre-rolls. And I want to say maybe we got 1 month in before they removed that. That wasn't an option anymore.
Instead of tips, instead of giving you.
And then they let us win our tips back. So if you got a Google review with your name mentioned, you got a free pre-roll. There was one woman who got 3.
What if you don't want a pre-roll? What if you
Exactly.
like edibles, or you don't use the product, or you need to pay your
Or
rent?
I want to pay my
I
bills.
will pay your rent.
Yeah, like
There was-
seriously. Like
There was a woman who had 3.
I mean, I like cannabis, but I don't want their pre-rolls because
They
I
gave it
find
all.
they're all crap. You know, period. Pre-rolls. I don't know.
the cornhole game.
Oh yeah, they'd give us a dice, guess a number, and roll it. If you win, you get some kind of cannabis. Then when it came to the meals too, so they would say like, oh, we're gonna buy pizza for everybody, but there'd be like 1 or 2 specific people who would get their own subs. They take their stuff home.
No, Lindsay and I closed a lot together, and what would happen is like I was afloat, so I would usually close upstairs in inventory and then come downstairs if the lines got too much. And a lot of the times we would come in at like 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and they would order their lunch at 11, and then be like, "Cool, you're good. Have a good day." And then
Have fun with your soggy
yeah,
pizza.
we wouldn't get anything in for the night shift. So then they decided, okay, well, day shift will get theirs, night shift will get theirs, and then they split it up about a month later. But then came in the $60 incentives, which were complete and total. Can I swear?
Yo, well, it's best not to, but if it happens, don't worry about it.
No, it was complete and total bull, honestly. Like, they gave us $60 incentives with our own tips. They're buying things at market price. They weren't putting their own discounts in it, so they were still spending $60 an eighth, which was really $72. And then we get an eighth, or a syringe of RSO, or a half gram of wax. And it's like, I'm not complaining about what I got. I'm complaining that they didn't give me an option. They didn't let me choose if I wanted to spend it there, or spend it on my gas money to get there, or spend it on food for me and my kid. You know, they didn't.
But to
give me
make
that
it
option.
seem like it was a gift.
Right.
Here's your present. Once a month, you guys get $60 of free stuff. Well, when we started realizing like this isn't right, we reached out to the HR like, this seems funny. And they said, no. It is illegal for you guys to take your tips. And we're like, but every other dispensary does. No, they're breaking the law.
And we started asking people.
So we started asking around. So then the excuse was we had to be tip certified. Well, bud tenders and bartenders go hand in hand. We have a lot of bartenders working there. Well, I'm tip certified. What can I do? Oh, no. That's not actually what we meant. They said they had to hire somebody to watch the cameras at all times to count every specific dollar we had so that they didn't get in trouble if we didn't claim them on our taxes. So they just kept changing their story every time we would ask, what is this about? What's going on?
And then we got the questionnaire.
Yeah.
I want to say.
Well, let me ask you a quick question before you get the questionnaire.
Yeah.
Were they so you're getting these tips from they're collecting tips, you're getting pre-rolls, you're actually even paying for them at times, like even $1,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Are they taxing you on the pre-roll? Like,
Well, town tax and regular, like, you know, MMJ tax and then sales tax. And in Abington, it was 30% collective.
But yeah, yep. Are they doing the income tax though? Like, because usually if you get a tip, right? Like usually you get taxed on that. I'm just wondering if they taxed you on that.
Well, they had, so at that, once we had put up enough fights, they just started putting them in our paychecks and then they started to tax them. I'm not 100% sure how they went with the taxes.
Like who got what and how much was allotted to each person.
Yeah.
If there was no,
there wasn't a lot of,
yeah.
I mean, even Abby and I were both sales leads. We saw more than the regular, people, and we were still kept in the dark a lot.
You had
What
Yes.
what was the timeline? What year was this?
2020.
2021.
Sorry.
Yep.
May 10th they opened.
Yep.
So May is the last year basically. This is where it all happened. Okay.
Year after COVID, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened from there? So you're up to this point where you're questioning things. You're talking to HR.
Yeah. So I believe around then is when Theory got sued and we got our paychecks or our 2021 bonus for all of the Sunday, holiday, and overtime they didn't pay us for correctly.
So they had been screwing that up too. So so I didn't know that. So this is the same company, Buds Goods and Provisions, was another company that wasn't paying, following mass law and paying overtime and for Sundays and holidays.
Yeah, I personally got a $260 check, and I have to 1099 it, as well as this one for my tips compensated check.
Do you think it was do you think you really are owed more, or do you think that's like the right amount?
I think I was more confused on if I already paid taxes on those hours.
We did ask for a breakdown. They didn't just pay us like, oh, so you worked this many Sundays, this many hours. They didn't figure out an individual money. They did a collective kind of guess is what we were told when I asked, where are you coming up with the numbers? So people who didn't even work Sundays got paid on it. It all got split between all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the money they owed you for working holidays and Sundays that they weren't paying. They weren't following mass retail law, which is unbelievable. These places are so regulated and they can't follow the basics. It's unbelievable. And
It's totally believable.
Cannabis Control Commission asleep at the wheel. They're just totally asleep at the wheel. The workers' abuse is not on the radar of the Cannabis Control Commission. They're someone who actually has had labor complaints from unions. So the Cannabis Control Commission, they don't treat their own employees that well, from what I hear.
No, look at their own commissioners. I mean, they're cycling through very quickly.
Yeah, I know that there hasn't been a Cannabis Control Commissioner besides, I think, Shalene Title that served her whole term.
Right. And this is a 6-year-old industry, if that, it's kind of unregulated, but I feel like these companies try to justify it, especially Buds in particular, by saying, oh, well, we pay you a dollar more than everybody else does. So why not?
So that's what that was the justification. Vic and I were both in an article last week about this. And when they had reached out to the owner of Buds for comment, he said, we value our employees and we pay more than industry standard. As if that's an excuse to steal from your employees.
Right.
I mean, what? That was just.
But yeah, so after that check from Theory, or after the Theory debacle, not from Theory, but during that time, we got a questionnaire. And it was like, so what do you want to do with your tips? Like, and it was like a really detailed questionnaire. And like, we had to answer it like, some regular tests. But everybody who said like, hey, we want our tips was just kind of pushed to the side. And we weren't heard. They ignored it. And they're like, no, we're just going to keep giving you $60 incentives. We're still going to buy you food. We're still going to, do this once a month. And it's like, but again, I would rather my money because I just had a customer hand me $84 and I don't feel comfortable putting it in the bin. And it's happened many, many times. I had regulars who come in and give me $20 on a $20 order. And that's just how people work.
And there's people who will wait longer for some of us specifically. They want, they're not tipping. Don't get me wrong. There are people who are, you made me a coffee, here's the change. But there are a lot of them that were tipping us because we were providing a service.
That's right.
And that's where we were educating them. I was actually asked to be part of the education team for Buds. And then at my review, I was called a know-it-all.
Which happened often.
They would give me so much. Anytime I knew something, they'd give me shit about it. Sorry. It was ridiculous.
They just want people that just follow whatever is the new speak today, the new order from the managers. That's it. I've heard this over and over again from so many. I've probably interviewed hundreds of employees now at this point from this industry, and it's the same stories over and over and over. The gaslighting. So we also have Abby here. Abby, you also worked at Buds Goods and Provisions. What's your kind of add-on to all of this that we've been discussing so far?
I mean, I definitely agree with Lindsay. Like, there were certain customers that would come in for a specific bud tender. Part of the reason I got fired was because I took a personal tip or two. I took a couple personal tips where a customer who would come in for me would be like, hey, here's $20. This is for you. Wasn't quite sure what kind of to do with it. So I took it. I got fired for that. Even though that customer was coming in for me. And when I got fired, the person that fired me said to me, they said, you know, how could you, because I was a lead sales associate, so I made more. They said, oh, you know, how could you take from people who make less than you? But I was also the top salesperson there. I made 20,000 more in sales. I won lead sales, like top sales the month before I got fired for making 90,000 in sales, 20,000 more than any of the other employees. And I was like, well, no, I have more tasks. I do more. That's why I make more. So if someone's giving me a $20 tip because they like me that much, I think that's my tip. And it just kind of baffled me because, like, now with this whole tips thing, I'm like, wow, I got fired for that, even though they're, you know, violating a law. So, I mean, I just think it's kind of ironic in a way, which is why I'm here today. Because for a long time, you know, like, I think all of us were like kind of brainwashed in the way that, like, we were like, yeah, this is a great company. This is a great company. And then it just became kind of toxic.
The honeymoon phase was over.
Well, that's like, because I got fired for this whole tips thing. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Abby. Like, seriously, because, like, brainwashing too. Like, we hear that all the time. It's
The
like
gaslighting.
it's like drinking the Kool-Aid and the gaslighting.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there's a lot of folks that invest in this industry, and their hashtag MSO gang on Twitter. I think they should listen to the employees, because, like,
Right.
this is mismanagement. Like, I've worked in so many corporations, whether it was, you know, what you mentioned earlier, hospitality, bartending, but also, you know, big sales, like, you know, financial products. You know, we're selling to major corporations, major hospital chains, things like that. And, you know, when we got bonuses because we sold a lot, we got trips. They didn't like, it's so funny. Like, they give you a cash payment, and then you get the free lunch, and then you get the trip, then you get the, it's like, it's not, we're not going to give you money because we're giving you a free lunch or a free pre-roll. That should just be an extra thing you get
Right.
when you get your check, like on top of the check. Like, it's just like, this is bad business, you know, and especially when you have someone like yourself who's the number one salesperson.
I made 90,000 in sales. Like, I also was the person they put in customer relations. They were like, we want you to call the customers when they're upset. And I would talk to them on the phone, and they'd be like they would feel amazing after. And what's funny to me is that they not only fired me, they also blacklisted me from working in any dispensary. And they didn't tell me that they blacklisted me.
Yeah, right.
They also didn't tell me that they banned me from the dispensary. So at the time when they fired me, I felt really, really guilty about everything. I was like, wow, like, this was my fault. And then a bunch of people told me, they're like, no, personal tips are a thing. Like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, didn't realize that. So it's just the whole brainwashing of it all.
Have you talked to an attorney about that?
You
Because
should.
that is like a major
That's
lawsuit.
really good telling her. She's
Yeah,
right.
that's something. Yeah, I'm considering my options at the moment. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I can't ever work in a dispensary, which I felt was a little extreme.
I just have a side note too. The funny thing is that our manager at the time came from NETA, so he already dealt with that. He already dealt with what we're going through, just on a different level. He dealt with you know, people, and when I brought it up to him about being unionized, he was like, "Don't do it. It's not worth it." Okay, cool. I know it's a new industry. Like I said, I'm a cultivator during the day, and I've been through some hell. And there's different type of people. Either you want to be in this industry or you don't. But I'm also not going to get taken advantage of in this industry. And whether it be a big chain or a small craft company or, you know, just a micro business, anything, you can't undersell yourself, and you can't let people walk over you. And I feel like Mr. Mason did that to a lot of us. And I feel like he was taking advantage of us and saying that, like, oh, here you go, pat on the back, you know, company outing. you should just appreciate the people who just made you $400,000 in the first 2 months of operation. You shouldn't have to say you earned this. No, you deserve this. There's a difference. And they didn't. And then they would try to make it feel better about the shoes. They had merchandise, and they were
for our 1 year.
Vans.
Yeah, for our 1 year, we were supposed to get Buds Goods custom Vans.
But we had to pay $90.
What the? Oh my god!
Right.
Now I'm ready to swear. This is just ridiculous.
Right.
So there, Alex has a quote all over the website everywhere, and it says, "When it comes to doing what's right, the right thing. What is it? It's always the right thing to. But that's how we operate. We do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's on their walls in there,
Except for our employees.
except for the employees.
I'm
Way to go, Buds Good. I want to ask you: is there a union there? Has been there a union push there? No.
No,
we were always told, all right, so I put it this way. I'm the squeaky wheel. I didn't get fixed, I got replaced. And that's how it is for all of us, whether it's my company or the next company or Curaleaf, that's how it is. There's a 65% turnover rate in this industry. And that's just for retail people, not even on the backside of it.
Which is even worse.
Right. And they treat us like shit in the backside. Thankfully, I'm with the company now who is very transparent and listens to the cultivators and actually cares about the plant. So I'm thankful for that. But there are so many who aren't. Like the big, 7 in the state. They go through people like nothing. You see them on Indeed all the time. Cultivator. For $16 an hour for 45, 50 hours a week with no overtime, and you want to hit a KPI to get a $250 bonus. Kiss my ass. Not happening.
Yeah.
And that's just how they are everywhere. And it's getting frustrating. I think that we need better regulation. I think that we do need to be unionized across the board, not just, cultivators, not just bud tenders. We need it everywhere because we don't have representation. Because again, we make an issue, they just say, get out, you're at will, we don't need you.
That's
Vic
right.
actually, right before she was fired, she asked, I think every day for about a week, every nightly email, can I see the SOPs? Which ones? Any of them. Can I see an SOP? Every time she asked for an SOP, they got more defensive. And then where's Vic? She's gone.
I was let go because we had a power outage in the end of October, right before Halloween. I lost a shift because of that. And then the next day I went into a shift in the dark. And I asked for that one shift to be taken out of my earned time off, like they did for 7 other employees. And when I asked, they did it for Abby. They did it for 2 other people who are in the same position as me. They did it for 2 other sales. When I asked, it was a no. And I was like, that's not fair. And then I started making an issue. They told me to go home halfway through my shift. The next day I clock in. They say, give me your badge, you're out. And I said, okay, that's fine. I already stirred the shit pot. I'm not even caring anymore. They know they're going to investigate. It's not slander. It's not libel. It's the truth. They got found out. That's why they gave us these settlements. It's just so we wouldn't complain. But that doesn't mean that we can't take them to court eventually. I don't want to. I mean, that's a lot of money I don't have. And I mean, obviously, Mr. Mason has a lot more. They have better lawyers, but they just need to understand that they can't treat their employees like that. And it's not just them. It's just everybody.
Right.
Keep treating their employees like this.
We need dispensary owners who have a passion for not the industry, but cannabis. There's different kinds of people. There's people who have fought for this to be legal, we did this on the back end before, and now we're here, we're fighting for it. And then there's people like Mr. Mason who, I have money and this will definitely
Brad
be
Chads.
Brad Chads. That will be profitable. But they don't understand the people who enjoy it. They don't understand. Most of Buds Goods upper management do not smoke weed.
Right.
They don't. They like spliffs. They're very weird. I don't mean it like that. I'm sorry. That was very rude, and I apologize. I didn't mean it like that. I just mean that how can you be pushing an industry that you don't have an interest in?
It's a cannabis commission, just on a smaller scale. Because I guarantee you can ask any of them, Commissioner Roy, Commissioner Tile, anybody. Nobody smoked.
Right.
They don't know.
Being involved with the industry.
They don't know what they're talking about. Exactly.
They don't know what they're talking about.
I applied for the Cannabis Control Commission. I wanted to. Some people actually put me up to it and helped me. And the biggest thing that I was, the 2 things I was wanted to bring is someone who had actually fought for legalization, which Shalene did too. So Shalene has that checkbox with me. Right. But someone who uses cannabis, someone who's been arrested for cannabis, but they're not interested in that. The politicians don't want that. They want someone who's one of them, who doesn't use cannabis, who wasn't arrested for cannabis, who doesn't care about this, who just wants to make some revenue off of the product. And that's
I feel those are the dispensaries that are failing their employees.
I'm thankful that there's still places that have affordable cannabis for people, because I think that when you're buying a wholesale unit at $15, I don't think you should be selling it for $60 right off the rip. I think it's robbery, honestly. And that's what I've seen. And it's not fair for people. You know, a lot of people just don't feel comfortable spending, you know, $70, $80 on 3 grams. And I'm one of them. I don't.
I go to Maine, and I've been hearing that a lot from cultivators too,
and
about the retailers. We got some comments. I want to put the comments up, a couple comments. This is from Ann Hassell, who used to work at New England Treatment Access. She's a goddess to me. She's a hero. She documented so much good stuff against NETA that led to some great coverage from us. And it was all because of her. She says the CCC is completely asleep at the wheel. She writes, the industry just wants clueless workers to see its crappy buds. She's always on the spot. I'm not even like reading them before I post them, because I just love Ann. She says free shoes for $90.
Yeah.
Ann also writes, unfortunately, a lot of marijuana industry management doesn't care about people or the plant, just money.
Right.
And we also got some other comments too that we'll probably be posting throughout the show. So if you want to make a comment, definitely do so. I'll throw one of these up here. Facebook user writes, I've been getting the driest stuff from the dispensaries of Massachusetts, which leads me to another question for you all. Did you ever see irradiation machines when you were working?
I just learned about those out Western Mass. They're using them at dispensaries.
It's disgusting, and they should have to say it on the freaking label.
Exactly.
Sell it. Go ahead. There's a whole market for people who want that, but you need to be transparent about it. Don't pretend that this wasn't denied before. There's something wrong with this product.
Another thing the CCC is asleep at the wheel about. They should require that. Like they require all this other crap, but like you're not requiring things that consumers care about. We want to know if it's been irradiated. Some people feel it's safer to be irradiated because then you're not dealing with the mold. Hopefully the irradiation kills the mold, and other people don't want it because it, you know, a lot of people feel it makes it dry and not good. So I think labeling, we got to label this.
I think they should also stop labeling terpenes. I don't agree with that. I mean, I like that people know it, but I don't think that they should add that into the TAC. It should be completely separate. Not even, you know, you have your 4% over here and your 22% over here. It doesn't make 26%. It makes 22 and 4.
So we also have Jimbo. Jimbo worked at New England Treatment Access. You're going through a similar situation where tell us about what happened at New England Treatment Access and why you're contacting a lawyer, and it's related to tips as well, right, Jimbo?
It is, and you know, admittedly, it's not as crazy of a time as you guys just had. That was extra, man. That was a lot.
It's pretty. This is funny. Like Buds Goods, congratulations, Buds Goods and Provisions, because you're making NETA look not that crazy, which is really that is something. That is something. Buds Goods.
It'll take some work. It was interesting. You know, like I've done a lot of jobs in my life where I've worked for tips. I work for tips currently, and like I went into this industry just like it sounds like you guys did, you know, like to try to help people, you know, like to work with this plant and to also help people. And I myself, just like all three of you, I wound up in a position where I was really good at the job and I was earning tips, you know, and never asked for them. But like, just like you said, when you're working with people and they're coming to spend their money, and it's not just, you know, not just the recreation users, man, that was cool. Like they'd throw you a couple bucks, man, but especially when you had a medical user, you know, you'd have people who are coming to try to help their mom or help their grandfather, help themselves. And they're coming to spend their money and they're glad to have this option. They've never had this option before. And like that extra $40 means nothing to them, you know, like they're so glad. And I was making all sorts of tips. I was getting all sorts of compliments in like the book we had, and we had to give those tips up. And we were getting snacks. There was a wall of snacks. There was like a giant wall of sugar, you know, and like nothing even healthy. And, you know, and it was funny because like I myself, like, this was in 2019. So like, right in my middle 30s, I've worked for a bunch of other businesses in my life, not in the cannabis industry, just that I've always gotten my ass kicked, and I always try to look out for my rights. And I'm sure just like you guys experienced, all the people I worked with were just wide-eyed, just doe-eyed at the opportunity to just work with weed. I mean, like, seriously, come on, like, it's pretty awesome, and like no one stood up for themselves. And I was saying, like, there's a couple other things that I knew that just wasn't right too, but I was like, this isn't right. Like, you shouldn't be taking my tips. And I give it to him. And I didn't always bust nuts every time, but like, every so often, like I'd say, this isn't right. Like, this is tippling. You shouldn't be doing this. This is illegal. Like this is wrong. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the way they retaliated back at me was that my only ask was like, I can't work Saturdays. Like, I can work every other day, every other shift. I don't have the metrics like y'all did, but like I was one of their top folks. I worked, they put me in like great spots, but they always made me work Saturdays. And it was like, dude, like I can't work Saturdays. And like, that was like their one grind, like they just always put me on. And I always had to try to like hustle to find someone to take it over. And, I think there was like one time at the end where I took a like $150 tip, like these folks, like we really vibed, and like, just like, boom, here's a whole bunch of money. And like, I'm taking that tip. There's no way I'm buying snacky food with that tip. And, they really kind of like cut my hours after that. I told them I took it too, and I wasn't going to give it up. And, I was in a position just to kind of move on from there myself before I got fired, because I was not being super quiet. I'm sorry that y'all had to get fired, in the way of this, but, I think we're all on the same page, is that like there is obviously undercurrent of treating the folks that are helping, making the money, making the experience of these dispensaries, they're taking advantage of us. It happens in a lot of industries, but this one is a new industry. And if like, if we can find a way to get ahead of it, maybe there might be a chance, and definitely hold accountable the ones that have done wrong, which is all of them, really. I don't know any of them that haven't, like, because even though we didn't have like a tip jar, we never had anything. There was never any receptacle or anything. It was still tips, and like it was like $100 a day on some days. Like, it was really like, I was getting a lot of dough, and like I was giving it up, and I knew like, it's my money, but
So this was New England Treatment Access. This is what, the Brookline location?
Yeah, man. It was right when they opened up recreation, so
when was that? 2019.
And I was there like a month in. So it was, the busiest dispensary in the world at the time. Like,
there were lines, there were cop
it was
cars,
unbelievable. It was super high volume. And, I'm really good at that. Just like, it's kind of what I do with my work. And like, just like it sounds like you guys were, you all get it, and it's like a really unique position to be in. And like, I feel like we weren't getting great money. It wasn't terrible money, but it wasn't like, it wasn't the money we deserve, but those tips would have made a difference. Right. It would have made a difference. Mm-hmm. And, I see no reason, just like in any other industry, that like there shouldn't be tips. You don't pool tips in a bar. Like, by having folks be able to earn tips, it's like iron sharpens iron, like everyone like is on their toes more. Like if you see your neighbor like doing better, like catching a couple extra bucks, like why wouldn't you want to like see what you can do to make that experience better? The goal isn't to make tips. The goal is to help people. But often you find that when people are helped really well, they have no problem throwing you a couple extra dollars,
So this is New England Treatment Access where you worked. You were getting tips, but you weren't receiving them. What were they doing with the tips?
Snack wall. Like literally, there was a direct line. Like there was no bones about it. They told you exactly what it was. There was a like a serious wall of just snack foods. Unbelievable.
I've heard that.
Wait. So that was instead of getting tips, you got free snacks.
Snack foods. Unlimited, huge variety snack foods.
I've worked for a lot of these big corporations, and most of them do that.
Yeah,
but they don't withhold your tips. Like you know what I mean? Like I worked at Comcast doing sales for a short period of time. I hate that place, but they're like one of the worst places to work.
I only
hope you get bonuses, but they give you free food all the time. Like
I only hope that there's like. I only hope that there's like an ebb and a flow to this type of I don't know, terrible abuse, but like this type of like attitude. I hope at some point like they realize like, oh shit, we can't do this anymore. Like we really gotta like
you think they're still withholding? So this was in 2019. How long did you work there? Were they withholding tips?
I was there for just like a quarter of a year. I was there for like 4 months, and yeah, absolutely, I left right away.
So do you think they're still doing that, or do you think that stopped? Or
couldn't possibly tell you, and like my gut would say based on every other thing I've heard about them that like probably they're not letting people take their tips, but I have no way to say it.
I have a question for you real quick. Did you start this process in 2019 or did you start it this year?
No, that's actually a really good question, man. I'm glad you brought that up. So during COVID, everyone was sitting around and had a lot of time, right? I know my rights, and I know that this was illegal. And at the time I couldn't do anything because just like our, it was Abby, I think, right? Like, I knew that like, you had to be really, really careful. And like, I eventually like went and talked to the attorney general like you guys did. It was during COVID, and no one got back to me. I called twice. Yeah. No one got back to me, and I can't blame them because man, COVID was an experience. But like, I tried, and like honestly, in the interim, I totally forgot. Like, it was just one of those things. I moved on to other things. Like Mike said, I decided to go and try to find my own way to help people. With this plant, and just a couple weeks ago, like Mike mentioned somewhere, like, this is the thing. And like, I happened to reach out to an attorney, and, we're waiting for anyone else that worked at NETA to come on and say, yep, we bought snacks with tips. Like if we can find just anyone else out there that says that agrees that that's what happened, like it's all we're really going to need.
And then you'll all get paid.
We all get paid. It's a class action, and like everyone earns what they deserve, So and that's all I think we're asking for, man. We're not asking for anything else. It's what we already earned.
Let's repeat that and make sure people know. New England Treatment Access. If you work there at any point in time and they were collecting tips, you're a front end worker and you're collecting tips, but you weren't getting them. You were getting the food instead. You have a right to those tips. And
if you or any kind of management, especially come forward and say it, like.
Absolutely. And Jimbo's got an attorney who's ready to file suit against New England Treatment Access. He just needs more people who step forward and collect a paycheck. And you have to be honest. You can't lie about it. We're not asking for anyone to lie because that would be criminal, and we don't want that. We want truthful people that work there to come forward and tell exactly what happened. So if you worked at New England Treatment Access and you saw this, contact Jimbo or contact me, contact the show, reach out to us because we want to help you get paid, and Jimbo's got a lawyer to do it. So, right, Jim?
Absolutely. And I'm really proud of you guys for going ahead and doing the work.
I was pretty consistent with it. I made the call and I didn't hear anything, and then I made a call again and I didn't hear anything, and then I talked to a representative, and then he was like, "Let me do some business. I've only been here."
There it is. Yep, third time's a charm, kid. Get it. I'm so glad you guys were on it.
Buds wouldn't give me a breakdown. Their HR currently would not give me a breakdown of what I made and when,
I'm still waiting for that email.
That's another question. Let's go back to the Buds Goods, because now you've so you basically
it's hush money.
Complain to the Attorney General.
Yeah.
The Attorney General is getting you money. There's a settlement that's been made. How much are you getting? Have you found out? Have you gotten the money yet?
Hold on. You don't want to know what I made per shift over 7 months? $4.76 per 8-hour shift over 7 months.
For tips.
$4.76 every shift that I worked over 7 months.
It is insane. I kept track. At one point, I wanted them to ask me, what are you tallying? And they never did. But I was keeping track of my own tips. Monday through Thursday, between 30 and 50. Thursday to Sunday, 50 to 100. Personally.
Yep. So stealing from employees is pretty profitable, it sounds like. And crime
Apparently.
pays, even when the Attorney General makes you make a settlement, it sounds like they still got away with some good thievery.
It should be triple damages.
It's saying, shit, we messed up and we don't want to go to court. Here's $33,000. We're averaging, a couple $100 a person over 70 people. There you go. Don't sue us. But I'm not okay with that. And I don't know if other people feel that way, but I'm not okay with that. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I've been doing this a really long time. I've dealt with the CCC for a very long time. Compliance is like my second nature. And this is just a slap in the face for somebody who brings you in thousands and thousands of dollars, every couple months. And it's not fair. We're the ones getting your customers. We're the ones who are building your brand so you can go build your Watertown place, so you can go buy your property in Jersey, so you can go have your production site in Lakeville. We're the ones doing that so you can profit off of us. So don't treat us like pigs in a farm that are going to get slaughtered. When you're done with us, bye. We're not those type of people. We're hard workers. We work our asses off.
It's funny because I feel like they, like I said, they're not us. They're not our people.
It's a different type of.
They almost thought like, ooh, let's hire a bunch of stupid stoners. They won't know any better.
But how stupid am I? Because I had to go through a Department of Homeland Security background check.
I mean,
you said
it's
I'm good enough to
insane.
work for you and hold your thousands of dollars of product. Like, how stupid am I?
They think they could get away with it. We weren't gonna question it.
Like
they were so rude and defensive about it. Anytime we would come forward and say, guys, this isn't right. She's not there anymore, but their HR manager before had to have the last word at every conversation, and she's actually never been wrong in her life.
What's her name? Because I would like to give her the last word. I'd like to challenge her. What is her name?
Ann Elworthy. She actually knows.
Ann, come on and see if you want to have the last word with us.
She never
Seriously. Anytime, Ann, because I'm smiling throughout this because they underestimated you. And like Jimbo said, I'm proud of you. Like that you stood up and you got. You must be proud too.
There's so many people in line that want to come and get this job, and there's so many people that get disillusioned so fast. That's what I've learned so quickly about this industry. And like everyone is just trying to help. Everyone's just trying to help, and everyone's just getting burned, which makes it even more insulting. Mm-hmm. It's not just that they're taking advantage of us; they're taking advantage of us while we're trying to be altruistic as well. And that's really that's grimy.
One of my coworkers.
It's like you've got money for everyone else in the company. Like you must be proud of that. I mean, I would be, Victoria.
We are very proud of Vic. We 100% appreciate her. Love that she did this. She did this for us.
I'm a squeaky wheel, and I have no problem doing it because I don't care about your feelings. I care about my plants. I care about the product. Your feelings don't mean shit to me in this industry. I'm sorry. I'm a good worker. I know what I bring to the table, but you're not gonna undermine me or try to take advantage of me in any aspect, and I just won't let that happen. And I'm not going to be rude about it, but I definitely won't let you do it.
Yes, you are. No, she's wrong about that part.
No, sometimes.
Vic is harsh, but she's right. That's where it is. And you know what? Clearly, that's what we needed.
We do. And the public opinion, too. Like, I think that these brands just, they miss that the long term is going to be about public opinion. People aren't going to forget the way that they treat their employees. They may get away with it in the very beginning when there's so few options, but every day there's more options, and every day we figure out who care and who doesn't give a shit at all. And this is it's unbelievable how much money they spend on these PR reps and all this BS, and you defeated them. You totally defeated them. You got the money, you got the press, you got the young jerks talking about it in our community. We're pissed off. Like Buds Goods, you're trash. And you know what? You put it out there that you won the New England Cannabis Convention. You're the best dispensary. You know what? I won that award twice, different awards from the New England Cannabis Convention. And the fact that you won it last year and you promote it, it cheapens the award. It cheapens the whole goddamn exercise. I'm disgusted to be an award winner with your dispensary if you treat employees like this and continue to. I'm sure you have some more comments on this. Anyone want to jump in from the panel? Go ahead.
So as a lead, I just remembered this as we were talking, as a lead sales associate in the beginning, I don't know if Lindsay did this as well, but they had me count some of the tips, like not even count them, but there was a log where they'd log all the tips. They'd have the receipts, everything, and we'd log it in. And I remember one particular night I was closing, and my manager asked me to literally log them all in a thing, like this whole Excel chart. And as I was looking at the receipts and as I was looking at the numbers and then putting them in, I literally was scratching my brain because I was like, there is money missing. There is money missing, and they don't keep track of it well enough to know where the money is. And I remember saying, hey, like, I don't know, like this receipt doesn't add up and this receipt doesn't add up. I asked my coworker, and he was like, kind of like that. And I was like, okay, but that's also like a couple $100 that we don't know where it is. There's not a receipt for it. So where is that money? You know, when you have the tips going just willy-nilly, you know, they're buying snacks or they're buying lunches. Where is some of that money going? And then immediately, probably like a couple months after that, the leads couldn't even see it. The leads couldn't touch it.
It wasn't.
I could touch it was the head manager. And it was just so funny to me because I was like, wow, that's weird. Because like, I don't know, didn't I just question the fact that there was money missing and that this didn't add up?
My favorite thing is that
I don't think that's funny, Abby. I think you're right on the mark.
So I, at one point, Abby and I had access to, you know, the safe and the vault and everything. And I was counting out deposits. Every deposit said the date, the amount, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the bags just said tips, tax correction. So I didn't mention it to Abby. I mentioned it to the other lead. And I said, I can't take a picture of it. You know, I'm not going to take my phone out in the safe and take a picture of anything like that, but I need somebody else to see this. He was promoted to assistant manager a few weeks after that and it said, don't worry about it. It's fine. So they used our tips to fix their taxes.
They use them to balance the draws.
That's what I assume with that. That's exactly what was written on there. But
and then like with the incentives, sometimes like I remember the old assistant manager used to just like take a pre-roll for himself. He's like, oh, everyone's getting a pre-roll. I get a pre-roll too, even though the salary employees weren't supposed to get tips, but they were also getting our tips.
Also illegal.
We're getting everything.
Yeah,
that same manager, when we would close, especially when her and I would close, he wouldn't have weed and be like, I want a joint. Everybody gets a joint and go buy out 10 joints for everybody that was closed.
He would also leave to go get Frontos and be gone for about 3 hours, but then told me that I couldn't give an employee a ride to the bus station because Abby took too long going to the food bank.
I took 20 minutes to go to the food bank and I was literally gone for like 20 minutes and they were like, it was 45. And I was like,
you clocked out when you were told by your manager, though. It's crazy. Crazy. We had many nights where we didn't have a manager closing with us. We had, you know, not a free-for-all, but 4 people closing.
They had like anime on the TVs upstairs, rocking out.
There's a lot of things you could get into here. It sounds like a lot to choose from. I think the hashtag MSO gang should be worried about how these places are managed. You know, we're also seeing a lot of times, you talked about how there's constantly hiring going on in this industry. But we've also noticed recently that they're laying off kind of middle managers or, you know, higher end retail, little people who are a little older, maybe costing them a little more for health insurance. And they lay them off, but they're instantly rehiring for those positions. It's just kind of like really a shady industry at this point. Yep. Another question came in from Ann Hassell. She said, don't you think the people who tipped would be pissed off that the workers didn't get
it? Got to a point where we told them, don't tip us. We don't get it.
Yep.
Yeah, and certain customers that we had good reps
the
with,
ones that we really like, we're comfortable with, don't do it. Just keep it yourself.
People, yeah. And they'd be like, then they would ask us, like, do you guys even get this? I'd be like, no. Or they'd be like, this is for you. And they'd watch us or make us like, hey, put it in your pocket. I want to see you do it.
I've had, I had a Christmas bonus and the guy said, do not put it in that box. Like, take it right now. And I was worried about it.
People ask, yo, can we meet you after your shift and give you something? Do you want a joint? Do you want, you know, we'll give you $10. You just sold us $450 worth of product. I feel like a lot of companies that do that, touching on what Mike just said, is a lot of them are CDA. And that's what Buds is.
Well,
and I
they claim they're not CDA, but they're on every CDA list.
Yeah. And I mean, I brought it up before.
I mean,
Alex Mason has a public article published on the CCC website about how he's against, you know, dispensary delivery for people, the smaller guys like Devin Alexander, who are just trying to come up in this industry, you know, who are working their asses off to be where they are. And big guys like Mr. Mason are like, nope, we're going to kick you to the side. You're not deserving of this. Why? People like that deserve a chance. All the little guys deserve a chance. Why can't we give them one? Because it affects your profits? Sorry.
Now they want to own them all. And
right. And then you see that with dispensaries after dispensaries, all they're doing is changing out their name, but it's the same friggin' company. They're Trichome, but it's Buds.
That's what it is. Well, that's the
I
thing
work-
is, if you look at the CDA list, Buds Goods is on there and Trichome Health.
Well, it's like strain. Strain is holistic. It's the same exact thing. They're peas in a pod. It's just different names. You're trying to make it better, but it's not. Even what they sell, their little buds is only Rev Clinics. It's just renamed 15 different times, like it always is. So I mean, it's never gonna equal out. We're still pretty rocky, and I don't see it getting any better until it hits that 10-year mark. And then when that happens, maybe we'll have a little bit more say. Maybe we'll have a, United Cannabis Worker Union, something like that here, because we're supposed to be the strictest laws, the ones in the country setting the standard for everybody, because we saw California did it in Colorado and Washington and Oregon. We want to make it worse or harder, not worse, but just a little bit more difficult. The numbers are higher for the applications. Even the fees to get the tags are twice as much here through Epic than they are in most places.
I'm hearing that complaint a lot too. I want to
Right.
ask. Let's do a couple speed round questions about just changes that we could be advocating for in the industry. I think we're probably all going to agree.
Hey.
Should tag costs come down for plants? Yes or no, everybody?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, me too. Yes. Obviously, and the whole thing about tags too. It's like my friend Ed points out. It's like this. You're using all this plastic. It's ridiculous how much plastic they're using in the industry, both in the packaging, but as long as the tagging of the plants themselves, which is awful. Let me ask you another question. 2 delivery drivers, because you mentioned Devin Alexander, and the biggest thing that his business and a lot of other businesses are going to have a problem with is delivery, is that they're requiring 2 drivers, which creates more cost. Typically, I love to see more workers hired, but in this case, I find it ridiculous. Do you agree with that? That we should get rid of the 2 delivery driver requirement or not?
Especially with
For safety reasons, I wouldn't, because of the amount of product they're bringing around, what they're doing, if they're carrying cash or anything like that. And if not, we can't be armed.
I mean, that's the thing, is if they were allowed to carry,
Yeah.
it'd be a different story. But right now they're not, and it's not safe. I mean, the delivery vans are very secure as they are, so that helps. But I still don't think that they should be by themselves. No. Not yet.
What do you think, Jimbo?
Safety first.
Abby, what do you? Oh, go ahead.
I've been a delivery driver before, not for cannabis, just in general, and there's 2 people for reasons sometimes, and I can't see a reason not to do that, especially in for certain dispensaries in certain spots.
Abby, what do you think of that?
When we would get deliveries at the dispensary, I liked the idea of having the 2 drivers, only because sometimes the delivery driver would come up to help bring in the product as they would count it, how they have to do. And the other driver would stay down with the vehicle. And I think that's just extra safe to have a driver down with the vehicle and then the driver that comes into the dispensary. I just think that's a safe practice in general, because, usually they're making multiple deliveries in one day. So they have multiple dispensaries product in one van.
I think that we're confused on this, huh? We're not talking about deliveries to a dispensary. We're talking about home deliveries.
Home delivery.
Okay.
I go to Maine. When I go to Maine, it's just one guy. There's one guy that delivers to me. So.
Okay. I still agree. I think it's safer to have 2 drivers.
I think it's safer, but I worry that their businesses aren't going to be able to survive because of the cost. But I that's why I'm asking the workers, because I'm not in this industry right now, and you are, and I want to hear your feedback on this.
Well, here's the question, though, right? Can they tip those guys? I mean,
that's kind of like pizza delivery guy.
You know what I mean? Are those guys allowed to take a tip?
Absolutely. I mean, I would absolutely tip.
But then you look out west, and then you really look at what the numbers are out west, because they've been doing that in California forever. I mean, when I go visit my family, that's a thing. Guy comes to the door, opens up a pizza box, and it's all weed. So I mean, it is one person. I just feel like maybe they need to be either body cammed or monitored heavily in their vehicles, just so we know that they're safe, because
that's a thing. Maybe 2 employees isn't necessary, but better safety measures for sure. But I get what you're saying. That's a lot. That's expensive, having 2 people.
So. Now another question that came in from Twitter. One of the leaders of the Massachusetts Recreational Cannabis Council, I hope I said that right. She was asking about co-ops. She wanted to know if any of you who are in the, you know, have worked as employees in the cannabis industry, what do you think about co-ops? Do you have any desire to open a co-op so that you're not having to work for
Not in
big
the,
cannabis and you're kind of, you know, have ownership over the labor?
not in this state. If you really want my honest opinion, my, you know, bigger goals in life as a cultivator is make my money here and then move out west and have a micro business. But you can't really survive as a smaller person in this state with this industry and what we're paid now. I mean, it's not a realistic thing. Even now, I'm thankful that the company I work for is where I work for, because they pay me way over what everybody else is paying for the same position that I do. And that doesn't happen very often. But, you know, the $32,000 a year isn't going to get me anywhere here now. So, no, not in this state.
Won't buy you groceries.
Yeah. No, not in this state, though. I would never do that here.
I agree with Vic.
Yeah, let me be super clear. I am never working for a dispensary ever again in this state, especially, man. Like, everyone I know, with like maybe the exception of one or two people, has had a bad experience working for dispensaries. Just about everybody, man. You know, and like I think I'm in the same boat as Vic. I'm going to go try and do, or, you know, I am currently doing my own thing to help people and utilizing this plant, you know. And I think that's, you know, there's a lot of folks out there that can still do good, use this plant to help people.
That's right.
That isn't involved in directly in
Working at the dispensary.
Exactly.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, Jimbo. You think I made a good decision not following up on all the offers I had to work at these places and did my dog walk business? People give me shit about walking dogs, but I'm like, I'm happy as can be. I don't think I would be happy managing even like.
No, man.
stores.
You know, there's something to be said for seeing something wrong and like wanting to be that person that like takes care of it, and like having that thought, and like, you know, I hate to say it, man, like this one is a big one to fight, you know, and I think we all find that, you know, I mean, like, you know, really glad you went and did it. I'm glad you fought, and I'm glad they caved, you know, because they knew they were wrong and there was just no way they weren't wrong, I'm sure, you know, like, but like, you know, in this exact instance, but like, man, like this is like a really big one to steer the ship. And like, I hope there are good people out there that they're trying to do it. And I hope, you know, just like any kind of position that's like this in either a dispensary itself or in the CCC or whatever, like, I hope there are people out there that are really going to take this as serious as those people on the ground floor, man. Like, because like clearly we're the ones that are taking it as serious as possible, you know, putting in the effort. And I hope that there's someone out there that's going to do it too. You know, I can't blame you for wanting to walk dogs, though, man. That's it'll do.
I love it.
It seems like a dream.
And I still get to, you know, I got my, even though I'm half the time too tired to keep up with the dispensary stuff, I still have my say. I still. I probably have more influence on the industry just doing a show, yelling at them every once in a while, than actually working at one of these places, having to follow orders of assholes.
I think there's definitely an opening for a decent dispensary owner in the state. You know, that's what we need. Just have one, and it will be a trickle down effect. You know, you have one that people want to be at.
Put back into your company. Don't expand.
If you have, you know, if you have bud tenders bragging to other bud tenders about how great their job is, things will start to change.
Well,
That would be amazing. Can you imagine that if they were like, I'm getting, like, there's a guy out there, I forget how much he's actually paying his employees, but he took a big hit as an owner.
Right. I saw that.
I think,
too.
what is he paying? Like 50 to 100 grand a year?
I guess that really comes back to that big question that you first asked, though, right here, was like, you know, would we do the co-op thing? You know, like, which I take it you mean like work for the company and also be the owner of the company.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. To start,
you
your
know,
own
like
thing.
I guess, you know, I wouldn't do that, man. But if like, man, you know, I still have hope. You know, like, you know, never give up hope, never surrender. And like, it, like, I'm not going to do it myself, but like, if there's people out there still watching this and like not completely turned off, like maybe if that ever is an option, like, yeah, maybe look into it. Really look into who your boss is. Look who the owners are. You know, like if you
Make
believe
sure they
in
have integrity.
Yeah, really.
Integrity. Yeah. The word integrity is somewhere in a mission or something. Well,
I will.
Actions speak louder than words, man. Just like
absolutely.
I'm not going to do it myself. I can't blame anyone else over here to not do it either. But like, you know, like for those that maybe do, like, you know, I don't know. It's a good idea if we can do it right.
I'll add on to your statement. There is if you're gonna work in this industry, don't expect a cakewalk. It's not easy. I mean, retail is easy, but behind the scenes, it's, you know, it's going to be grueling, and it takes a special type of work ethic for it. And you just got to bust yourself and, you know, mold yourself into a really good person and really want to do it. And you will go far. You just got to prove you have to go far. I mean, there's still pay gaps. I was at a $2 pay gap for a really long time at my first company, and I was doing just as much work, if not more, than the males there. So, you know, there are things that need to be worked out, you know, the demographics that they meet and things like that. And, you know, whatever HCA they have to follow compliance by, but it's going to work itself out. Right now it's not, but you just have to be prepared that it's going to be swimming up the creek with no paddle, and you have to deal with that. But it is rewarding if you love it. If you like the plants, if you're a true...
I think the most rewarding is helping. Like, you know, Jimbo was saying about the medical. We didn't have medical patients, and we were only rec. And I almost feel, I mean, I've never worked medical, but it was really special to the people who had never done any type of cannabis, didn't go to get their license yet or anything, and they just wanted to question. I mean, I've had people hug us. They had cried to us. You know, and to help these people was
to be
the
clear
most
too,
rewarding.
Right? I think, like, I think, and just to be really clear and to build on that, like, I think we're all using this medically in some capacity, you know, even if you're not, you know, so like, even though you didn't get the direct experience of maybe like, you know, like a cancer patient, like directly, like, you know, which can be taxing as well.
Some of those
like,
are, you know, it's funny though, Jimbo, because one of my good friends, I've been telling her, you know, forever to get her card.
Yeah.
You know, she has so many ways she could get that card. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to reveal her medical history, but so many people are patients. They have real, like, they can't, whether it's cancer or PTSD or whatever it is, they're patients. They just don't have the card, whether for a number of reasons. Some people just don't want to do it. They don't have the time, energy. They're just rather just go to the store. They don't want to be on a list. It could be, you know,
it's a lot of the, I don't want to be documented. I don't want to be on a list. So, and you know, people will come in, they'll say, I just left my doctor's office. They told me to try this.
But think about the people with PTSD who have LTCs who can't get a medical card. They have to pick one or the other. You have to either choose your LTC or your medical card. So I can either be medicated and help my flashbacks, or I have to, you know, be armed and protect myself because I still have that and I like guns. That's so fucked up.
Well, like me, like I've been a patient for, I don't know, since probably ever. But right now I'm not a patient. You know why?
Me neither.
Because my card expired like this week and I haven't renewed it yet. I'm gonna get it renewed, but it's just mine. Yeah. I go to Maine, so it's worth it to me.
You know,
exactly. No, and that's
you grow, Bill. You grow. I don't grow.
I grow my own pot and I give it away.
There you go. But you're still a patient, I guarantee you, right? Does it change?
I use it, you know, as medically, man. I have anxiety. You know, my job that I hold is, you know, is speaking in front of people. And like, you know, like I might be all right at it, but like, I get a little nervous sometimes. So I'm glad to smoke a joint earlier. Like, you know, works out well. Like you know, just like all of us, we figured out what we like, or for those we were working with and those that are still out there, you know, like are figuring out what works for them. And like, it's a unique opportunity if you're working in those positions, especially the front end, to like really make a change and really make a difference in those lives. You know, I like the job. I hated the work. You know,
that's right.
Exactly. I loved the people.
My favorite. We had this one customer. She was 87 years old, never smoked, never did anything, you know, was straight to the books, never broke the law. She got talked into coming in with her grandchild. She had super bad rheumatoid arthritis. Like, I couldn't open her hands. We had a really good solve. We sold it to her. I remember talking to her for about 40 minutes, making sure, like, you're not going to get stoned off of this. I promise you. It's not going to get you messed up. I promise you. She came in the next day and cried for like 10 minutes at least. And was like, this is the only thing that helps. I don't get sick because I'm not messed up from whatever medication I'm having. I don't feel bad. And I can hold my cup of coffee for 20 minutes and feel good about it and put it on. And it works for as long as I need it. That was the best that I could see. The alcoholics said, I'm going to smoke a joint instead of drinking a beer. And this has helped me.
I had a woman who came in and got seltzers. And she said, I can sit with my friends at the pool this year. And she had tears in her eyes. Like, I can sit and hang out with them because I don't feel like I need to drink. That's awesome. I loved that.
I wish politicians would acknowledge that on the rec side. That adult use cannabis does serve so many patients. I don't think the politicians or the regulators I don't think they acknowledge it. It's ridiculous. It's another issue why we need to talk to the employees because they know what's going on. We're about to wrap up, but I got a few more quick questions. We're going to speed round this. We're going to keep this kind of tight. Number one, I want to ask you all, the tax in Massachusetts is still really high on adult use. The governor of Massachusetts has come out, the Republican governor that's about to leave. He wants to cut taxes because he said that there's such a surplus in Massachusetts now. And the reason why I haven't even looked into this, but I'm pretty sure the reason why we have such a surplus in Massachusetts, and a lot of states probably do, is because of the gas tax. The gas tax is based on a percentage. So when the gas goes to $4 or $5, they're getting a lot of money. They're getting a shitload of money. So there's a huge surplus. Should we cut the Massachusetts cannabis tax?
Yeah.
What do you think? Yes. Everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think yes, absolutely. At least cut it in half, if not more.
Yeah, right. I was waiting for the punchline there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an obvious one, right?
Make access for everybody easy, man. Like, you know, like really.
I shouldn't have to drive to Maine, number one.
No.
Even though I could get it tax-free in Mass, the prices are ridiculous, even on the medical side with tax-free in Mass. And the product isn't that good compared to Maine. But let's
allow higher milligram percentages. If recreational could buy 500 milligram candy bars, I think it'd do great instead of 100 milligrams. I think that's garbage. Why are you giving people limits? So you're going to make them buy 500 milligrams and spend $200 when they can just spend 30 and buy it? That's not fair.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, just like you, I go to Maine. It is so much. And don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit of like more of a health nut. I don't want to eat a whole candy bar for 100 milligrams.
Yeah.
I want to eat one Hershey.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want the whole thing.
That's right. Dosage. Another, I guess we're going to leave it at this. The final wrap up. I guess your final thoughts on this. And, you know, if you want to throw in any advice for any other employees who are dealing with similar issues, maybe abuse at the workplace, especially in the cannabis industry, not being listened to at work, not being valued, and especially if their tips are being withheld right now, what would your advice be? Any final thoughts and anything you want to kind of promote or where people can reach you? Because I know a lot of people have been listening to Victoria and Lindsay and Abby and Jimbo, and they want to know how they can support you, find you, connect with you. So I guess who wants to go first?
I guess I will. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself at all. But whether you know your rights and you have to talk to somebody who is going to give you the legal advice that you need, don't be afraid. There are people who understand this. I mean, it is a new industry, but people will listen to you. Just be persistent and be truthful. Don't bullshit anybody. Just give them the facts and they will do their job and they will figure it out for you. And that's all I can say is just be honest and be upfront. Don't let people take advantage of you. If you're not comfortable working a double because somebody called out, tell them that. It's not your responsibility.
Trust your gut.
Right. If you think something's not right, trust it. Say something about it. And if you're afraid of it and you think that you're going to get fired, that's when you need to speak to your HR. But either way, just always advocate for the well-being of yourself and your finances.
Always.
Look out for yourself.
You don't owe your job anything.
True.
Take care of yourself first.
Abby, you want to add something?
I mean, I would say don't let your workplace walk all over you. I felt really guilty for months on end about what had happened with my workplace. And after realizing that I was actually in the right and that I earned those things, I would say don't let them walk all over you. Know where you stand and what your rights are. And again, like speak out. Like if, for me, like it took me a while. Like I remember Lindsay reached out to me a couple months ago about this and I didn't answer. And then finally, after all this happened, like I finally was like, you know what? I'm ready to do this. Like I'm ready to talk about this. Cause it's such a huge progression going from like, this place is so amazing. Don't let your workplace brainwash you into thinking that everything's fine when in your gut that it's not, and that they're screwing you. Especially with the leads, they would just take advantage of us, and I would just let it happen, and that just can't happen anymore.
Thank you so much. I thank you for both sharing, what happened to you, Abby.
You guys nailed it. Listen, know your rights. Know when you're being taken advantage of. don't let yourself be taken advantage of. But understand, if we're working in this industry, there's still a lot of good to be done. And I encourage you, especially, you know, those of us that are working on the front end. I work myself just on the front end. You know, it is a space that you can do a lot of good. And I encourage people to give freely of themselves that they can to those they're working with, because those people really need some help. That's why they're there. Some people are just there to get their joint, which is still cool, man. They still need to be treated well. But those that are there, you'll know. If you pay attention, you'll know, you know. Right. And it's a really great job, and it's gonna get better. You know, it's going to get better. I feel like these kind of conversations are going to drive things to get better.
Absolutely.
We're stepping stones. We're foundation.
Yep.
We may need to be a little bit louder, and they may not like that, but we're getting things done, and that's what really counts.
Also, thank you, Vic.
Yeah. Again, I'm no problem being a loudmouth and advocating for what's right for myself and my other peers. I mean, it's not fair. We're all trying to just make ends meet. We already make, you know, less than the average, and it's a low-paying industry as is. So we're just trying to survive and not be taken advantage of, and that's not fair that people can do that.
Oh yeah,
amazing. Thank you all for coming on, Victoria, Lindsay. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Jimbo. This was great. You shared a lot, and I think
thank you for helping us get it out there.
Yeah.
Can I get my website out there? Would that be all right?
Oh yes. Promote your stuff.
Anyone, I mean, ladies first, you know, if you guys, is that all right? I just happen to be really proud of it. You know, I over COVID, when we were all sitting at home, happened to start growing cannabis. You know, my way better half, whose name is Jelly Bean. She happens to be a master gardener. She has her own fine gardening business, and we decided to grow some cannabis.
Nice.
We did it on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Facebook. We did like a bunch of like Facebook Live stuff, so all our friends could see, because everyone was at home. And turns out really good at it. You know, she actually spent 3.5 years in federal prison for growing cannabis. You know, so
good for her.
Yeah, totally, dude. She's gangster bitch Barbie, dude. She's awesome.
Oh yeah, good for her.
So this was like a really unique way for us, just, you know, grow some weed for ourselves. Now, with that said, at some point, someone asked us like, "Hey, can you show us like how to grow?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't know anything, man. I just pick up the heavy stuff. You know, she knows everything." But like, I figured there was a way to do it, so we decided to make a online community-based learning platform where we teach people how to grow their own organic medicine at home, right? And like that, I'm really proud of. Like that's great, you know. And yeah, I mean, totally. I don't know if y'all know Elmo, but like Elmo was kind of like a big inspiration after he passed. You know, I decided that I want to do more than just teach people. We wanted to try to like really help people, and we decided that we are going to, and we still do, these past 2 years, give away our classes for free to disabled folks, veterans, and ex-cons. And with as much money as we can muster up, you know what I mean? Like, because we don't really make much off this yet. We also like not just give the classes away for free, which are only like $50 a month. We also like buy all the soil and all the products and everything to make it so they can grow. Yeah. So like, I'm really pretty proud of that. It's called Growing Together with Jimbo and Jelly Bean. The website is growingtogether.club. You know, and listen,
club.
Yeah. .club. Yep. And
is that a new
I've had it for about a season, you know.
No, I know, but I've never heard .club. Is that like
.club? Yeah, right. Well,
yeah,
that's I have it right there.
I found
Growing together .club.
Awesome, right? And yeah, that's me on the front with my beautiful way better half. But yeah, listen, man, we also take donations, and like, you know, if anyone sees the button down there, like, you know, that goes directly to helping those folks. But
does it go to snack walls?
We have a giant bowl over here on the left, actually.
Give me some Cheetos right now, man.
Totally
some Cheetos.
But thanks so much for that opportunity, guys. You know, sorry to drop that, but I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I'm glad I wanted you to bring that up tonight. That's like growingtogether.club. I've seen it. You do great work. You know, cannabis space is education. I like I said, I'm not I don't work in a dispensary, but that's what like most of my friends that I grew up with and just, you know, worked with in other places, when they hit me up about the cannabis, it's always a question about growing, or they're just trying cannabis for the first time. They don't know where to buy it. You know, it's just, there's so much, it's all education based. This is like the big thing. And this is what these dispensaries are just missing. They're just missing it. They think, yeah. And our listeners and people watching now, they say knowledge is the key. Those are the comments. The community knows what's going on.
Dude, absolutely.
Yeah, there's another comment. Elmo, fuck, it's nice outside. 232 clones donated here in Vermont. That's from a Facebook user. See, the community, that's where the wisdom is. That's where the knowledge is. That's where I go to find out what's going on. Everyone's like, how do you become such an expert? These reporters hit me up. They're like, how do you know all this stuff? I say, I listen to the community. I talk to people. What don't you do? Like, it's so funny because these bigwigs, they're not listening to the consumer. They're not listening to the community. They're not listening to the workers.
They're looking at market trends.
Which short term, great. That's good for you, but it's not going to hold up. Not in this industry.
A world exists where everyone's happy, man. There is a space that exists, and like it's coming down the pike. And this is the work that's going to make it happen. Thanks for the opportunity, Mike. I really appreciate it.
I want to thank you all, Jimbo, Abby, Victoria, and Lindsay, so much for coming on.
Thank you.
You give me hope. You really do. Like I get negative. Jimbo knows. I get pissed off so much. I've been so angry over the last few years about this industry. But you know what's kept me going and even keep my interest? It's the workers. It's like folks like you. Like seriously, you've stepped up, and it's you should be proud. Like I'm giving you a round of applause. It's like as probably one of the longest advocates for cannabis in the state, like going for 20 plus years. You are like what is keeping it going. Like honestly, it's the workers. It's folks like Victoria, Lindsay, Abby, and Jimbo who stand up and fight for their other workers, and you know the value that you have. It's what's keeping it together. So I want to thank you all.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Folks. I appreciate it.
So this is the Young Jerks. We're checking out. I want to thank all our listeners and watchers and commenters too. Thank you so much. Mike Crawford checking out with some great guests tonight. We'll talk to you next time.